Hey, fancy listeners. Francesca Hampton here, and I am honored that you took time to tune in once again. And I'm committed to sharing content that will make you glad you did. So, welcome to the Fancy Thoughts Podcast, a weekly podcast designed to give you perspective, insight, and encouragement to release the greatness inside of you. I want you to live fancy life, where you are fostering achievement, never compromising you, because someone is waiting for you. Before we get into this week's fancy thought, once again, let's remind ourselves what we talked about last time. In episode 23, we talked about the priority number 1 is you. We reminded ourselves that in order to release our greatness, there are some areas that we can make ourselves number 1, and that will help us to be successful in whatever it is that we do. That includes being knowledgeable about the things that we are invested in, offering, or providing, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves physically as well as emotionally and mentally. Because the reality is, in order to give your best to someone else, you have to first make sure you give your best to yourself. And now for this week's fancy thought. We were supposed to be back to a weekly schedule, but for the past 2 weeks, life has been a whirlwind with the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend and then last weekend full of many different things. Time just got away from me. But I am back, I am here, and I'm so thankful that you're still here with me. And I'm still promising you that the time that you took to listen to this podcast will not be in vain. And so, this particular podcast, as well as many of the other ones before, is really talking to me first. In all the times that I've ever done any type of speaking, whether it be, at an event or with friends or, even in these podcasts, whether I realized it at the time or I recognized it later, many a times the first person that needs this information is me. And so this time I'm actually going into this knowing full well, I need this more than anybody else. And so with that, the title of this week's episode 24, is You Belong Here. Again, I'll say it. You belong here. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she told me a story that she had heard from someone else. And basically, a particular person was in an environment around some very influential people. And it was their first time, or maybe it wasn't their first time, but it was, they were still getting used to being in that type of environment and around those type of people. And they felt a little intimidated. They felt a little taken back. And they were told by someone close to them that said, basically, pick your head up. Act like you belong here, because you do. And that stuck in my head and has been in my head for weeks. And I felt that it was something that I absolutely had to embrace. And if I need to do that in order to release my greatness, I am confident that there is at least one other person out there who probably needs to know that just the same. And that's why we're going to talk about it today. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been invited to speak at an event, to participate in an event, or just invited to be at an event or be in an atmosphere of people that you've never been around before? Maybe at the event you were invited to, it was with some very influential people, similar to the story I just mentioned. Or maybe it's just new to you. Whether they were influential or not, maybe it was your first time on the stage or first time being highlighted or in the limelight, if you will. And in those situations, did you ever feel nervous, anxious, taken aback? Well, of course, we all do. But did you ever feel intimidated, unsure? Did you ever feel like, I don't belong here? I'm not supposed to be here. How did I even get here? I don't know if you've ever felt that. If you never have, it is possible that one day you will. Hopefully through this podcast, you'll know how to deal with it if you ever do. Many times we get into a situation and we have the skills, we have the qualities, we have the know-how, we have the information. But when we're presented with an opportunity to give that information, to share that information, to provide that information, we can oftentimes feel inadequate, unprepared, even though we've done all the things that we need to do, and we can begin to shrink back. And whether we realize it or not, that will have an impact on how we deliver. Now, any person who has been performing or been in front of people for a long period of time will tell you they still get butterflies at some point in time before they go out. Why? Because when you are stepping out into anything that is a representation of yourself, it is common, normal to be a little nervous. You're making a representation of something that you're presenting, whether it be your own original material or if you're representing or representing something else that someone else may have already said or done. Let's break this down to a tangible example. I remember one of the times that I was asked to sing outside of my normal venues. And of course, I've been singing most of my life since I was a child. My family sings. I've been singing. And over the years, I've grown more and more confident in my singing, but it's always been in an environment where I felt safe around people that I've known. Many times it was with people that I've grown up with, what have you. But I always knew I wanted to do something more. I wanted to expand, my reach. I had an opportunity to perform at a open mic type of venue. And I remember getting there and thinking like, okay, it's me and some other people and, we're just coming to show our talents. And I remember seeing them and seeing the different type of wonderful people with excellent skills that were presenting. And we even had a celebrity at one of the events. And I was like, what am I doing here? Why did they ask me? Wait a minute. I'm just a small town person. Why am I being put up here? How am I going to compete? How am I going to really represent myself here, like with all of these great people? And at the time, I didn't know then what I know now. But even then, I pressed through it anyway. Why? Well, you invited me here. The least that I can do is show my very best. And I truly believe that that is important even today. Stepping into something else doesn't mean that I'm not nervous. I'm not even sometimes unsure, but it means that I believe that I was invited. I was asked to be at a certain place because someone recognized something great in me. And how can I allow someone else to see something greater in me than I see in myself? I need to represent myself with my full authenticity, and so do you. You need to show up. Basically, anything that you do, anywhere that you are presenting yourself in any capacity, you need to show up. Why? Because you belong there. Let's talk about what the definition of belong is. Collins defines belong as to have proper qualifications to be a member of a group. That's one of the ways that you can belong, right? So let's say that you are invited into a particular group of people. Maybe it's women entrepreneurs or men entrepreneurs or, men business owners or, whatever it might be. And it's like, am I supposed to be here? I just started my business. The very fact that it's a group of business people and you have a business means that you have the proper qualifications to be a part of that group. It doesn't matter that you don't have the same number of years or the same number of locations or the same number of revenue that someone else has. You belong. Why? Because in that particular group of business people, you are a business owner. Therefore, you belong. That's enough. We oftentimes compare ourselves, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. We compare ourselves to others. We compare ourselves to the vision that we have of who they are based on where they are right now. They all had to start where you're starting right now. And what a great opportunity for you to be around other people who do have a greater measure of success than you so that you can learn from them. You can glean from their experiences and learn from their mistakes. That's a great opportunity, but you won't ever be able to take advantage of that if you're walking into it thinking you're missing something and you don't belong there, that you're not qualified to be there, that you are an imposter. Because reality is we deal with that imposter syndrome. We talked about that before, right? Saying, okay, well, if they really knew who I was, they would kick me out. If they really knew that I just started and I'm really actually not doing so well right now, they would think something different of me. The reality is they already know. Everybody has started somewhere. Everybody has had bumps, bruises, and mistakes along the way. Whether it was in their first month, their first year, or 10 years down the line, everybody has had something that has taught them how to be better. And that's where you are. The other definition of belong means to be properly and appropriately placed, situated. Again, to be properly or appropriately placed. When you get invited to something, that means you belong. If you get invited to speak at an event, and that event is with 2 people or 1,000 people, You belong there. You have been properly and appropriately placed in that environment, at that event, in that venue, because you have what is needed. You have something to say. You have something to give. You have something to provide. You have something to offer. The whole thing about releasing greatness is first understanding you have greatness to release. You have to believe that what's on the inside of you is valuable and important enough to share with someone else. It has to start with you. Now, there are times where you may be floundering in that thought. And so that's why having the right network around you is important, because they can help to build you up. They can help to encourage you. They can help to push you and encourage you. But they can't make you believe in yourself. They can only tell you what they see. You have to choose to believe it for yourself. And when you do believe it for yourself, when you understand, recognize, and embrace the fact that you have greatness on the inside of you that needs to be released, then when you step into a room, especially one that you've been invited into, you can say to yourself, I am properly and appropriately placed in this situation, at this event, to provide the greatness that's on the inside of me. I don't care if you're saying one line, you are supposed to be there. You are supposed to be there. We have to make sure that we understand that we embrace that, and we walk in that. You deserve that. And deserve sometimes is such a challenging word because, in our ideas of being humble and our ideas of being meek, we can often say, well, technically you don't deserve anything. Anything that's given to you is a gift. And that's absolutely 100% true. But also understand that you have been built, created, and designed with a certain set of skills. I laugh. But you have been designed and purposed and created with a set of gifts, talents, and extraordinary characteristics that, when provided in the right venue to the right people, will make an impact in their lives that is undeniable. So what you offer, what you have, who you are, is amazing, is important, is valuable, and is needed. And you are the only one who can release it. You are the only one who can present it the way that it was supposed to be, because the biggest thing is you. We talked about a couple of weeks ago, building your brand. And we said your brand is you. Whatever it is that you have to offer, whatever your business is, whatever your offering is, whatever your service is, as great as it is, the biggest part of your offering is you. It's how you do what you do. It's how you say what you say. It's how you provide information the way that you provide it. It's you. So in any situation, scenario, or venue that you are in, you belong there. Now, sometimes we talked about in the beginning about being intimidated. Or in the beginning, I mentioned, sometimes we can feel intimidated when we're in certain situations which seem out of our league or are brand new to us. But when we really look at the definition of being intimidated, we can pick apart some pieces and attack them in a different way, so that intimidation doesn't have to override confidence. It doesn't have to take the precedence in any situation where we're presenting ourselves. To be intimidated, or someone who feels intimidated, is someone who feels frightened and lacks confidence because of the people they are with or the situation they are in. Again, it's someone who feels frightened and lacks confidence because of the people they are with or the situation they are in. You know what's not in that sentence? That they lack confidence because they're not able, qualified, or deserving to be in that situation. It's because of the people they are with or the situation they are in. What does that tell me? It tells me it's an inward feeling of an outward perception, right? It's an outward perception of what you think other people will think about you. It's an outward perception of what you think or how you think you measure up to other people. Because the reality is, if you were invited, if you were included, if you were accepted to be there, let's say you asked to be there and they said yes, that yes is enough to say that you are properly and appropriately placed. Therefore, there is no need for you to be frightened or to pull back in your boldness and confidence because of the other people that are there. Regardless of how many other people there are there, regardless of the caliber of the people that are there, you belong there. There is no need for you to walk in a lack of confidence, because the confidence that you should have is not in the other people. The confidence that you have should not even be in the situation. The confidence that you should have is in who you are, the full authenticity of everything that you are. And you belong there. You are great. You are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to walk out the very greatness that's on the inside of you. Whatever it is that you believe that you have been created and designed to do, own it. Step into it. Walk it out with boldness and confidence. Release it. Because as always, someone is waiting for you. Thank you for joining us for the Fancy Thoughts podcast. I'm Francesca Hampton, and I look forward to you tuning in again next week. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish everything you were created for. So go and make this week a great one.